the area west of Johannesburg, Westbury, the epicenter of the demonstrations happening right now that was sparked by the death of a woman and a child being wounded, caught in crossfire, apparently to drug gangs or groups in Westbury. And we now have Bongani Bingwa, my co-anchor, on the ground. He's been keeping us up to date tonight. Bongani, what's happening?
Good evening, Francis. Yes, it's been a day of running battles and high drama here in Westbury. The streets are littered and strewn with rocks. We've also found casings of dispensed rubber bullets. I've got in my hand an unused one, and that's really a sense of what the day has been about. Many community members have been alleging that police have fired into crowds unprovoked. So the tensions remain high here, and the sentiment has been that a lot of coloured communities are feeling ignored, from Reiger Park to Eldorado Park, Coronation and now Westbury. They are saying that when it comes to time for voting, political leaders come to these communities, make all kinds of promises, but when it's not election season, their voices are not heard, their pleas fall on deaf ears. They've been saying they're going to continue protesting until, in particular, the National Police Minister comes and hears what they have to say. They've blamed the local police station in Sophiatown of being involved in what they are alleging is corruption here. They're saying drugs are a problem, gangs and fights over turf is another situation they've highlighted. Interestingly, they've also said that it is well known who the culprits are. The people that are involved in all of this are well known, but very little action has been taken. We're going to be speaking, as I said a little earlier, throughout the evening to community leaders, particularly those, of course, in education. And I've got with me the Deputy Principal from Westbury High, Jefferson Billings. Good evening to you. I mean, how on earth does learning take place in this environment?
Good evening, Bongani and the viewers. It can't take place, Bongani, because of the drug using by our learners. It's very difficult. You as a teacher, don't forget we're there to teach and children are there to learn. But if a child gets there drugged, how are you going to teach a child like that? Our late coming at our schools, and I'm speaking all the schools here, you look at 20, maybe 20, 25 children, sometimes more than 100 children arriving late at school because they first went to get their fix before they come to school.
There is a perception and certainly a sentiment being expressed from people I've spoken to, including yourself, that really this community is overrun by the gang leaders, certainly by the drug dealers.
I agree 100% with that, Bongani. If you look at, let's take a ratio of 5,000 citizens in Westbury, and we look at 500 drug peddlers, drug dealers and drug lords, whoever. Can't the police sort out those people? Now come I tell you, because they're scared, because somewhere some of them have their hand in the cookie jar and they don't have the will to sort that out.
I spoke earlier to a member of the community who claims to have been one of the foot soldiers, and he said even when he got arrested, his overlords were able to bail him out for a couple of $100. That sort of thing common, do you hear?
The stories that go around, that's common to most of us, because people get caught. The next time when you see them, they're on the street. So they need to know someone at the police station.
It's exam time around the corner. You are due to have makeup classes. What's the plan for the week going forward?
Man, we're busy with, we call it secondary school intervention plan. Today we had something like 40 learners, our maths lit learners, we had maybe 16 learners. But because of what's happening in our community, some of our children are more eager to go and make money by selling drugs. Not all of them, a few of them, but they keep themselves busy with funny things. Bongani, my thing is that if our Minister of Education can come in and get a forum, a police forum that can just handle the drug story, it will be possible.
All right, you also have, of course, your colleague here, Gino Williams. I want you to come in and be part of this conversation. Now, you're a teacher at the same school. What are you seeing? And I'll ask you the same question. I mean, how on earth do you teach in an environment where there's all this kind of action and disturbance going on?
Good evening, Bongani. The reality is, like Mr. Billings has said, it is difficult, extremely difficult. I mean, when you have learners, when you smell their hands in the morning at the gate, there is dacha. We call it, it's not Westbury anymore, it's now Wheatbury. What is disturbing to me is even the fact that they went to legalize dacha, marijuana, and specifically in a colored community that is drug-ridden and it's pestered by drugs, that the parliament and government does something like this, that for us as teachers is warning signs that says what foolishness is going on. So the fact that our people are standing up in this manner, it's not just for the drugs. It's not just for the violence. It's not just for the neglect. It's also that the government is in a state of lawlessness. It's not just our community. The whole government itself, there's no trust in the police. So the police are here, they're shooting at our people. Whereas this could have been prevented. We had marches over 500 marches most probably in all different colored communities.
But to be fair, I mean, we've seen since we arrived and throughout the day, community members throwing stones and missiles at police cars. Not all of the action, I mean, I've got these casings in my hand, but not all of it has been unprovoked.
That is today, Mr. Bongani. Where were you 3 weeks ago when we had a peaceful prayer walk? When we had the MEC of safety here at the Westbury grounds, there was no stones being thrown. Friday, there was no stones being thrown. So today, when people are saying that enough is enough, when we are saying that we need, because it seems like in our country that unless there's violence, there's no action. And that is unfortunately the state where our colored communities, and you know what the biggest problem is? The biggest problem is we are afraid that it's not going to happen just here. It's going to happen in Davidsonville. It's going to happen in Claremont. It's going to happen in Cape Town. When I was on Facebook today, I saw someone trying to make contact with Westbury saying, let us combine these efforts and let us make a statement.
So what do you want and whom do you want to come to this community and address its concerns? Who do you want to hear from?
Well, the people want the minister, Becky and Terry. We want, if President Ramaphosa can come in here, then he should come, because this is a major concern where we are saying that don't come just to make speeches. Come and see what is happening in our community. Walk from corner to corner and smell what is happening in our community. I mean, we've got children at our school that travels and they are robbed. We gave out tablets to children. They are robbed on the way. We don't have any police visibility in the mornings. We have got police visibility when something like this happens. I mean, when we look around, we can see a vast majority of police around us, but when the bullets are going down, there's no police visibility. And this is the reality of people must crawl out of our house, if I can go as far as that. Our children, when they come to school, they are afraid. They feel for them to be protected, they need to join a gang.
All right, so those are two teachers from Westbury High. Thank you very much, Gino Williams and Jefferson Billings. I'm going to ask you to just move out of the shot there. Really, the cry here is for leadership, and the constant message you hear from community members, from community leaders who say when things go south, suddenly you get police officers on the ground. But in terms of what their ongoing pleas are, when there's no demonstrations, when the roads are not barricaded, their voices are not being heard. And I'm going to ask you, Val Lebron, as a community leader here, what's your frustration with what you have seen over the last few days?
Good evening, Bongani. Good evening, viewers. My frustration is that we, Westbury especially, this is where I live, although I see it in all the other colored communities, we are being sidelined. We have children that have passed with great marks, but they're just not getting anywhere. And I just feel that somewhere they've been blocked out of the system. It's not that they don't want to be there at the universities and the colleges and things like that. And it is because of desperation and frustration that our children take their flight to drugs, because you can only be turned away so many times and say, I'm giving up. And it has become norm in our community that if you pass matric, you're just going to sit on a corner and start with your okka pipe and then your dacha, and then it's hardcore drugs, or you must become a peddler for some drug dealer.
one of the biggest allegations that's been made throughout the last few days is that the names of the dealers are known to the community, the people behind the drugs are known to the community, and yet very little action has been taken. I mean, have community members engaged with the provincial authorities, for example, to say these are the names, this is where they are, deal with the situation?
Yes, that definitely happens. But you know, our police, you go to them. And I think that is right where he dies off, because they are, their hands in the pot. They are being fed by these drug dealers. The other one thing is, it's easy for people to say, go and notify the police. You do not know who are you reporting that person to. And that's what people fear for their lives, that policeman will go back and say so-and-so came and mentioned your name.
Val, there's a standoff now. I mean, that's been pretty much the situation for most of the day. I've been seeing these running battles where community members will throw stones and police will retaliate, or the other way around, whichever way you're looking at it. What's the way forward? Because it does seem that we're almost in a kind of stalemate at the moment.
Most definitely, and this can't continue, because I was just saying this morning, I have a phobia for violence. This can't go on. It's terrible to come out of your door and you hear bullets and tear gas and children running and people being shot and things like that. What we want is the government to come out and assist us. They've been marginalizing us for way too long. 24 years. We feel that a whole generation was neglected because this government did not come to Westbury. And yes, I agree that we see so much and so many of them when it's time to vote. This time I don't even know who to vote for, because that's the only time we see them. And I don't want to see them, because when we have problems like this, they don't come near. And that's how most of the community feels, that please don't come to us when it's time to vote, because you can't be here when we need you.
All right. We'll have to leave it there for the moment. Of course, we're here in Westbury, and really a lot of dissatisfaction from many community members out here who've come out, even though it's obviously after dark now. There's still streets strewn with rocks. Access in different parts here in Westbury is difficult because, of course, there's just blockades, and the stone throwing still continues even at this hour. We'll certainly keep you updated in terms of what's happening on the ground, but a lot of dissatisfaction. This community feeling very much sidelined, as you heard Val say there. And of course, teaching is also difficult as exams are around the corner. It's a worrying development. The cry really is for leadership, and that's been the question of the evening. We're asking that on #FullView. We welcome your voice notes. Do communities like this one, coloured communities, have they been forgotten? That's what we're asking this evening. That is certainly the sentiment that is being expressed here this evening. And if I can just point you to these are shell casings. You can see 3 of them have been disposed of. They've been used, and the one hasn't been. Rubber bullets have been fired into the crowds, and if you walk around the streets here, this is what you'll see, or of course you'll see big rocks. Access is difficult, and that's the situation. It remains tense overnight, and we'll certainly keep you updated in terms of what's going on. I'm going to hand over back to you, Francis.
Thank you very much, Bongani. And incredible claims coming out of this community. After a short break, we'll look at how complicit the police themselves may be. Some evidence emerging from a book, The Street, Exposing a World of Cops, Bribes and Drug Dealers. We'll be talking to the author. We take a short